A gente continua aqui no Green Rio, no estande da Aedin. Estamos agora com Ted Studevent, is it right?
Yeah.
Diretor de Iniciativas Estratégicas no CSI de Washington. What is CSI? It's not supposed to be solving crimes.
Well, sometimes we do. No. The only crime we solve is the underuse of our infrastructure, really. We are all about rethinking our infrastructure, and we believe that the new way of thinking about infrastructure should be that we demand much more of it. Instead of infrastructure serving certain needs and causing other problems, we work on how infrastructure can solve multiple solutions to multiple problems in the world.
It's a private company.
We're a nonprofit organization,
Okay.
an NGO.
How did the partnership between Aedin and CSI happen?
Well, we first went to Kalundborg, Denmark, and learned about industrial symbiosis in 2017. And then I think about 3 or 4 years later, folks at Aedin learned about them as well and thought maybe we could do something here.
People say they know everything.
Yeah, that's right. The Danes know everything. And the Danish government then funded a project that they called the Systemic Approach to Clean Industry. And that funding allowed them to engage with us and folks from Brazil and from Mexico and from Oregon in the United States as well.
Any specific reason for Washington, or
What's that?
any specific reason for Washington is included or not?
Well, because we as CSI, our mission is to try to help the world through smarter infrastructure. And when we went to Denmark in 2017 and we saw industrial symbiosis for the first time, and we saw something that was both good for business and good for the environment and good for the community. And so we decided that we wanted to work to import that to the United States and as broadly as possible.
But you're already working the concept of industrial symbiosis there?
Yes, starting in 2017. And so we started working to import that. So we took legislators from our state to Denmark several times so that they could see how wonderful it is. It inspired them to then come home to Washington State and say, we want to do this here. And so they have created a funding program that now funds almost $5 million a year for industrial symbiosis projects in our state as well.
And the partnership with Aedin?
Yeah, so Brazil, the Aedin and the state of Rio de Janeiro were also invited into that project. And part of the project was training us on how to do industrial symbiosis. And the first part was online for, I think, 6 months. And the second part, they funded us to all go to Denmark. And that was where we met. That was where we met the Aedin folks and the Rio de Janeiro folks.
3 days ago, we were together in Aedin, no?
Yes, and then we were at Aedin for the first time. So we've been hearing about
Rio de Janeiro too.
Yeah, so we've been hearing about Aedin ever since Denmark 2 years ago. Yeah. And then
in the first phase.
And in Denmark, we all decided, Denmark has this wonderful approach, but Denmark is a very different country than most of us.
The rest of the world.
Yeah, the rest of the world. And so we found that to learn how to do industrial symbiosis, that is a very Danish concept, in our very different settings, that we should help each other learn how to do it since we're experimenting.
A combination of the two concepts.
Exactly, and how to adapt that to other settings that are very different than Denmark. So we agreed when we were in Denmark that we should form an alliance and keep working together, and that turned into the International Industrial Symbiosis Alliance, which we're really sort of unveiling today for the first time, and we're going to sign an agreement here in a few minutes on that.
In your evaluation about the Aedin experience?
Well, we've been hearing about it for 2 years, and so we knew that a lot of work was happening in a lot of companies, but until you really get to see it, you don't get a sense of how amazing it is. So even though I've been hearing about it for a couple of years, I've been totally inspired and impressed with what they're doing. We toured the Casa de Moeda there, and just the things that they're doing at that one facility are incredible. But then the vision that they have for how to connect all of these companies in symbiosis for all sorts of benefits.
You were surprised at what you see?
not because I didn't think they weren't doing that much. I just didn't really know. So I was very pleasantly surprised at the incredible amount of work that they've done, how much they've figured out already, and the potential of what Simbiose could do there. I'm super impressed.
Okay, do you think that this experience in Aedin is an example for the rest of the world?
There is nothing more powerful for the rest of the world than to show them this can work and this can make money. This has to show that it is good business, and it's good for the planet, and it's good for people. But if it's not also good for prosperity, then it's not going to work. If we can come up with this solution that is good for the planet, is good for people, and is good for prosperity, then everyone can work together to move it forward faster and bigger, which is what we're trying to do. So I think there is nothing more valuable. As a matter of fact, when we were at Aedin and we were seeing a slide of what the system could be in the future, I told Aedin, if we had that picture and just a list of what would the benefits be to each company, we would take that piece of paper, go to our legislators, our governor, and say, this is what we can do.
It works.
It works. So there's nothing more important than showing that this can work, not just in abstract theory, but it works for businesses, and it works for communities, and it works for the environment.
You know, when we talk about industrial symbiosis, we always talk about the profits of the companies. And what about the people? Are there benefits for the people?
Yeah, so that is one of the things that our alliance is formed around, trying to figure out, as we implement industrial symbiosis in our own settings, how can we involve our smallest businesses? How can we do things that advantage the community? Like
employees?
Yeah, and the employees. So the concept of industrial symbiosis is to move from narrow thinking to broad thinking. And when you move from narrow thinking to broad thinking, that includes the health and happiness of your workforce. And there are all sorts of opportunities as you sort of clean up operations. And also there's a great deal of pride that people take in being part of these wonderful solutions. And it's also good for their pocketbooks. You know, the company makes more money with this. And at Aedin, I'm trying to remember just the... I know that there are some wonderful things they're doing there in terms of involving local farmers in a street fair.
To convince people to make part of it.
Yeah, because one of the things that makes this very new and challenging is businesses and most organizations, we are used to doing what we do. We're not built for or paid for or funded to be working with multiple others, and so therefore we fail to find the opportunities that are there. But when you do that, then you find opportunities like the farmers in Santa Cruz being able to come to Aedin and sell their vegetables every week, and I understand that now those farmers that do that, 50% of their income come from Aedin and that one street fair. So by thinking big, there are all sorts of opportunities that you can find for people as well.
Keep the jobs.
Yeah, and you know, that's the bottom line, is they need a job, and they need a good job, and this helps companies be more competitive in the global marketplace.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.